If you're looking to get fit as fuck or just less unfit, I'm going to break it down for you guys. So when we're looking at what fitness is, a lot of people will mistakenly think that fitness is intensity, how hard you can go. And in a sense it is. If we're looking at something like world record sharing, or we're looking at elite level fitness, basically, if you're looking at it from a performance aspect, the person who can operate at the highest speed for the longest amount of time is generally the person that's going to win. Now, this is true for sports like AFL, rugby league. If you're the person who can get off the line faster, who can break contact, who can, be faster at the end of the game, generally you're going to perform better, you're going to create more breaks, you're going to create better options for your team members, be better on defense, and that's going to lead to winning games. Now, if you're doing something like a sharing tally, if you're able to share faster for longer, you are able to break a world record, or you're able to set a tally. And ultimately, that would be fitness defined as performance. Now, if we were looking at fitness defined as health or cardiovascular metrics, it's actually quite easy to define. So if we're looking at, once again, probably elite level performance, you're looking at somewhere for a resting heart rate is going to be a good measure. So if you have a resting heart rate below 55, let's say below 60, you're probably fit. Okay, and that probably should be at least the minimum standard for every single person. Should be a resting heart rate of below 60. Now, if you're looking for elite endurance, you're probably looking under at least 50. Some people get down as low as the 40s. I have a jiu-jitsu guy I roll with at the moment. He's very, very, very fucking fit. His resting heart rate somewhere in like about 40. So he's very, very fit. So then we also have HRV, and HRV is a very, very good measure of cardiovascular health, and it's something that you can easily track with something like a Whoop. And why it's quite a good measure for both health and performance is it's quite closely linked to something called VO2 max. And now VO2 max is our body's ability to extract oxygen from the whole system at a high intensity. And so HRV and VO2 max sort of link together, and the higher your VO2 max, generally the harder you can go, the faster you're going to be able to perform at whatever sport or whatever it is you want to work on. And the good thing about HRV is, as I said, it is easy to measure. So if your HRV is going up, it's showing that you're in a parasympathetic state, so you've got less stress, you're handling stress better, and it also just shows a really good sign of fitness. Now, a good HRV is probably about 70 or above. If you're looking at elite performance, especially in endurance sports, you're probably looking at anywhere but above 80, probably above 90 is going to be at least a good standard. If you're looking at elite endurance, you're probably 100 plus in terms of your HRV. Now, those two measures are really, really good in terms of how your cardiovascular system is operating from a performance and health perspective. Another really good one is your heart rate recovery score, which is essentially, let's say you do a max effort on the rower. So say for like 2 minutes, you go really fucking hard, and your heart rate at the end of that is about 180 beats per minute, which is fucking really pushing the line. 2 minutes after that, your heart rate will ideally decrease, and based on how many beats that decreases is a sign of how fit you are, 2, also how fast you recover in between really, really hard efforts. It's a good sign of how your cardiovascular system is functioning, performing overall. And it's also a good measure of like, okay, cool, if I was to go really fucking hard at something, can I recover in between? And so for sports like basically any team sport, combat sports, so say for example, if you're doing 5-minute rounds in MMA and you have 1 minute to recover, your ability or your heart rate recovery score of how many beats you recover in between that is actually a really good sign of like, okay, cool, I can push really fucking hard for that 5 minutes and know that I'm going to recover in that 1 minute so I can go hard again. And so we hear about, you know, combat sports athletes who have a massive engine. This is generally what they're talking about. It's that ability to recover at a really high intensity. So now when we look at those scores, probably for a heart rate recovery, a baseline would be about 20 beats. So let's say you hit 180. After that, you get to about 160. A good score is about 40 beats per minute. And then anything above sort of 45, 50 or above in that 2 minutes, you're starting to get elite recovery and starting to be in really, really good shape. So understanding those, there's a few different ways you can go about it. And probably the base where I would start, this is for people who are unfit, okay? So these are people that have no level of fitness, who are just wanting to start out. What I would actually probably work on is start at about 15 minutes of nose breathing cardio exercise only. Now, the reason why nose breathing is handy, it does improve your body's ability to use oxygen, does improve your CO2 tolerance, so there's a few things behind it. But what it also does is it stops you going too fucking hard. So one of the first things you want to improve is just your cardiac output, okay? And so this is generally, you're going to have a heart rate of about 120, 140 beats per minute, which is, it's still working, but it's not too hard. And if you're doing nose breathing only, once you get above that, you won't be able to breathe through your nose. You'll be gasping through your mouth. So it is just a good regulator, and it's something, if you don't have tools like this, if you don't have access to heart rate monitors and stuff like that, it just gives you a good, like, what would you call it, like a fucking handbrake that slows you down a little bit. And so if you start at 15 minutes, you do that for 7 days, and this could be, you know, a fast walk, it could be jumping on a treadmill, could be on a bike. The next week you just want to add 5 minutes until you get up to about 45 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes. And now, unfortunately, that's pretty fucking boring. But it is something that every single person should be doing if you want to live a long and healthy life, decrease stress, all of that sort of stuff. So improving that to a point, we're able to do 45, 60 minutes, you know, keeping your heart rate down around that 120, 140, at a relatively decent pace. Like if you're just strolling along, like walking the dog, and your fucking heart rate is 120, 140 beats per minute, you really need to sort your shit out. And you probably should be doing a lot more of this. So that would be the baseline, and it's probably the easiest thing to do. You back that up with some strength training, you're doing pretty well. Another way that has been absolutely brilliant for me, and this is something that I've been working on recently, is what I call cold-blooded cardio. So if you're decent fitness, okay, so let's say you train, but you want to get fit really fucking quick, this is a method that I have been working on. One of my mentors sort of introduced me to it, and all it is simple. It's about 6 minutes total, okay, and you're going to do this you got three different workouts. And I call it cold-blooded cardio because you're going to do it when you're absolutely cold, no warm-up, just get straight into it and give it a fucking hard effort. And when we look at our VO2 max, and this is essentially probably our highest level of performance, as I said before, it relates to your HRV, so it improves your health quite dramatically as well. But it's something that you have to have a decent level of fitness to be able to, one, not fucking kill yourself, and then two, also get the most out of it. So you got three types of workout. The first workout is an escalating 6 workout. And so I got this from Dr. Mike T. Nielsen, who's a fucking wizard of a human, and he came out with what he calls his meathead cardio. So basically what it is, for 6 minutes, jump on an assault bike, a rower. You can run, but if you're an old bugger like me and you haven't done a lot of running, you know, running's something that is a bit harder on the joints. It's also something that is a little bit harder to keep your heart rate at a certain level. So generally the rower or an assault bike or something like that can work really well. What you do is you start off on the first minute, you go at about a 6 6 or a 7 out of 10 intensity, and every minute you're going to increase your intensity until the last minute you're basically at a 9, 10 out of 10. If you're really keen, you probably only get about a 9 out of 10, and the goal is to, you know, gradually increase that heart rate till you're working at a really high fucking intensity. And now this method works extremely well for improving your VO2 max really quickly. Reason why I like something like the rower or the assault bike is you can actually see how far you go in terms of that distance. So each time you do it, you've got a score to beat, okay, which is really cool. So that one there, 6 minutes, one and done, you're good to go. As long as you push it in the right intensity, you'll get a lot out of it. I've played around with it where it's like you start out really hard, it fucking sucks, but mentally you've just got to hang on. What I do like though is really like using the RPM, stroke rates, or the different like how fast you're going for like 500 meters on a rower is really good, because you can pace it and you can keep gradually increasing that pacing, and it's a really good way to improve your, well, to measure performance over time. So it's a brilliant one. Now the second one is a bit different, okay, and so this is my preferred, once again, on either a rower or assault bike, and it's much shorter. It's about half the time, but you're going to either pick a 1 kilometer row sprint or a 2.2k assault bike sprint, just flat out as hard as you can go and trying to beat your time each time you do it. It's basically an exercise snack. It's a shorter intensity, so you're basically a lot harder off the bat. And then you just got to hang on for that 1k or the 2.2. It takes roughly about 3 minutes if you're moving along pretty quickly. And what it does is, because with the 6 minute, obviously you're pacing it a little bit more, that shorter one, that 1k, teaches you to go a bit harder, okay, and I'll explain in a second why that can be useful. So those are the first two options. The third one is my 4x7 method, okay, and so this is something I actually use to train rugby players or AFL players, any team sport, basically with anyone that wants to do really fast, high intensity efforts over and over again. So let's just show this to a sports context. What it improves is someone that, let's say you're on the line defending last 5 minutes of a game, you got 5 tackles to defend in something like rugby league, okay, so bang, you hit a tackle, get back to the line, bang, you hit a tackle, get back to the line, bang, hit a tackle. You got to make 4 or 5 tackles in a row within the space of like 90 seconds, okay. So what this looks like in practice is you select either an assault bike or a rower, go as hard as fuck, like 100% effort, for 6 to 7 seconds, you rest for 15 seconds, you do that 4 times, rest for 2 minutes, and you do that for 3 to 4 rounds, okay. And so this is working generally mostly your creatine phosphate system, which is your highest power output system, and that is going to complement the other 2 energy systems that you worked on those other 2 methods really well, because it's teaching you how to put 100% effort in. Now, so if you go the first day, there's the escalating 6 method, so the 6 minute where you ramp up, and then you go day 2, you go the 1k or the 2.2k sprint, the mid-level sprint, and then day 3 you do the absolute 4x6 method. And then if you want day 4, you can do a 30 to 60 minute nose breathing only. You can add in tempo intervals or something like that. That method there, that 4 days a week cold-blooded cardio, will get you extremely fit in the space of 4 weeks. You'll notice all of your metrics that I've been talking about, your resting heart rate, your HRV, your heart rate recovery score, all of that will improve a hell of a lot. And all it is 6 minutes roughly per day, apart from that long 30 to 60 minute nose breathing only. But that there will give you a very good performance base. Now, if you are looking to do something a bit more long endurance, ultra endurance type focus, this is a volume game, and you do have to ramp up the volume in terms of whatever sport you're doing. So let's take sharing, okay? So sharing, you can build your fitness in the gym. Fitness is going to give you, the gym fitness is going to give you that 6th gear, okay? It's going to give you that extra bit of firepower. It's going to give you that staying power. but gears 1 through 5 are going to be built in the shed, and that escalating, ramping up of the intensity over a day is something that is extremely important, because any sport you play, look, if let's say I'm wanting to get really fit at rugby league, but I go and play tennis, okay? I'm not going to be good at rugby league. I'm going to be good at tennis. I'm going to be fit for tennis, and while there will be some fitness overall, I'm not going to have fitness for rugby league. And so it's the same with endurance sports, it's the same with sharing, it's the same with rowing, running, biking, is that you want to build your fitness in the sport by ramping up the intensity, the duration of whatever it is you want to do or perform at, and use the gym to give you that extra gear, that extra recovery. And as you do this, it is a smart, the way you got to do it is you've got to gradually ramp this up. As you get closer to an event, what you want to do is ramp up the intensity, decrease the volume. Okay, so say for example, sharing, you might go from doing 9-hour days, 2 weeks out, and then you might drop it down to like 2-hour sprints, so like really going fucking hard, but giving yourself time to recover, but still having somewhere in there in a gradual, in a periodized fashion, where you have your shorter sprints, and then you make sure you have your longer days, but you do them as recovery. Okay, and so that's really, really important. So anyway, that's bit of a live there on recovery and on endurance training, or how to get really fucking fit or get a little bit less unfit. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or shoot through any questions. Have a good day.